Morning everybody. Welcome to my video presentation. I am Dr. K. Balasubramanian, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Applications, PSNA College of Engineering and Technology. I am going to deliver video lecture on Java RMI. RMI stands for Remote Method Invocation. Remote method invocation is a Java 2 Enterprise Edition technology whereby we are going to access the remote object which are available in the remote machine by sitting in the current system which is local to us. Before the evolution of RMI, we had another technology called RPC. RPC stands for Remote Procedure Call. Remote procedure call is C-based remote method invocation technology, whereas RMI is based on Java. Hence, RMI adapts automatically the advantages of Java language. Java language is built with so many advantages. One of the major advantage of Java language is the Java language is a platform independent, architecture neutral, which means when you develop any application with the help of Java, that application can be ported to any type of architecture and will run on any kind of operating system. RMI is based on Java, hence it adapts all the advantages of Java. Moreover, RMI has come with inbuilt security mechanism which is not available in RPC. Thereby, RMI avoids intrusion detection, hacking, etc. Now we are going to see how RMI works for us. In order to develop any application with the help of RMI, we need three major steps. The first step is creation of interface. Interface is a Java-based mechanism which resembles class, but the difference is what are all the functions which we have in our interface doesn't have any definition associated. In that way, interface is differing from any class. First step, as I already told, RMI contains the creation of interface. In order to create a remote interface, what we are going to do is, we are going to create public interface myInt. This is what the way to create interface in Java. Since this interface is special in nature, that should be extended from the built-in interface called remote. Why do we extend my interface from the remote interface is, what are all the methods that we are going to declare in my interface are going to be remote methods, they are not going to be normal methods. Here the meaning of the remote method is, we are going to have these methods definition in remote machines. By sitting in a local machine, we are going to access the definitions, thereby we are going to get the results. That is why we are extending the remote interface for the created interface. In the remote interface, what I am going to do is, I am going to declare what are all the remote methods which I really need. Say for example, suppose I am declaring a method called public void display. This is what the method which I would like to be a remote method. Hence I declared this method something like a public void display throws remote exception. Like the way we can have several methods declared over here. This is what the way to create a remote interface. So once again I am repeating, in RMI the first step is creation of a remote interface. While we create our own remote interface, what we need to do is we need to extend our own interface from the interface called remote, and then we need to declare the methods. But above all, what we need to do is we need to import the necessary package called import java.rmi .star. This is what the package that we must import, because this package contains this interface called remote. After this first step is over, we are migrating to our second step. The second step is creation of server class. While we create a server class, what we are going to do is we are going to create a public class extended from a class called unicast remote object, in which we are going to implement what the remote interface we already created. The unicast remote object is available in a package called rmi.server. Hence what we need to do is, as a first step in creating a server class, we need to import the package as import java.rmi.server.star. This is what the package to be imported, along with the package called import.java.rmi. After importing these two packages, let us go for creating the server class. The server class should be public in nature, hence public class my server extends unicast remote object and implements myInt. Here we need to note three things. The first one is my server, which is the name of the server class I am going to create, which is extended from unicast remote object, which is a built-in class available in the package rmi.server, and this class implements myInt. This myInt is the remote interface which I already created. Okay, and then now I am going to declare the constructor for the created server class. Public my server throws remote exception. And I am writing the command super. This is what the constructor which I am creating. This constructor calls a function called super, which derives what are all the capabilities the base class unicast remote object already had. These capabilities are inherited to my server class. This class is responsible for the creation of remote object. After creating the remote object, that object has to be properly registered in the central repository. All such responsibilities are had by this unicast remote object. That is why this extension process here. Once the constructor has been created, let us look after the implementation of interface method, that is public void display. here is the implementation detail. Public void display throws remote exception. Now we are going to have a simple function called system dot out dot println of from server. Okay, this is what the definition that I gave, otherwise called implementation. Public void display throws remote exception. This is the remote method which I declared in remote interface that I am implementing here, which contains the definition system.out.println within double quotes from server. So whenever this method is being called by any local machine, that machine is going to be printed with the message from server. This is what the objective. Okay, once this class creation is over, what we are going to do is this class object has to be created. That object is called remote object. We have to register the remote object in the central repository in order to make all other systems to look after that object and get services from the object. That is what the major theme of remote method invocation. So our next step inside the server class creation is creation of remote object and registering the remote object in the central repository. How can I register? So I am defining the main method public static void main string argument throws remote exception. Inside the main function, I am going to create object for the remote class, that is server class. That object is a remote object. That object I am going to register in the central repository. So what I am going to do is my server m equal to new my server. So I created an object called m with the help of the class called my server. My server is the server class. This object I am going to make it as a remote object. Whenever I am registering this remote object in a centralized repository or registry, then this object can be accessible by several machines. So how can I register? I am going for the next step. There exists a class called naming which contains a method called bind. This bind is a special method which provides a name for the remote object which already created. With this name, this object is going to be registered in the centralized repository. By looking at the centralized repository, the m can be accessed by various machines. That is what the purpose of this naming.bind method. So when we successfully execute naming.bind of within double quotes abc comma m, where within double quotes abc is the name of the object name using which we are registering the object m. After this registration process is over, we are completing the main function and then we are completing the class. The third step in RMI is the creation of client part. creation of client. Client creation in Java RMI is a simple Java program where what we are going to do is we are going to look after the remote object. Once the remote object has been successfully looked, then the definition of the method which we would like to invoke has to be got from the central repository. After getting the definition of the method, that method is going to be executed there itself, and we are going to extract the result from the central repository. So the client creation is a simple Java program that I am going to write. As usual, we are going to import the necessary packages. Import java.rmi.star, and then the second one to be imported is java.rmi.server.star. Once we imported the necessary packages, let us go for creating the client. Say for example, public class my client. In this client, write the main function like public static void main of string, and we are going to make this main function to throw a remote exception since we are going to access the remote object. Inside the main function, the first step is we need to look the remote object which has been registered in the registry. In order to look up the remote object, what we are going to do is we are going to use a class called naming dot lookup. Naming is a class which we already used for binding the object in remote registry. Once again, we are going to use the same class in order to look up the remote object which has been already registered in the registry. So naming dot lookup of, here we need to provide one URL. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. Here what we are going to provide the URL is RMI URL, which is not HTTP URL, which is an RMI URL. That RMI URL will take up the form RMI:// suppose the remote system is having the IP address 192.168.8.31. that IP address should be specified here. 192.168.8.31 is the system which contains the remote object. Hence we are providing IP address of that remote machine here, followed by the name of the remote object which we already gave. The name of the remote object which we already gave is ABC. Hence I am writing the same name, ABC. So naming dot lookup of the RMI URL. RMI URL is usually taking up the form RMI:// IP address of the machine which contains the remote object and name of the remote object. Once this execution of lookup method is successful, it returns remote type interface. Hence what we are going to do is we are going to typecast that remote type interface into our own interface called myInt, and we are storing the return value in one variable called I. This I is of type myInt. Now let us look after collectively the meaning of this statement. myInt I equal to, within parenthesis myInt, naming dot lookup of, within double quotes, the RMI URL, which means once the lookup operation of the remote object ABC is successful, then this lookup is returning in general a remote interface. That remote interface should be typecasted to our own remote interface in order to store in the variable called I. We are going to now use this I for the invocation of remote methods. How we are doing? See here, I dot display. When you call I dot display, then the message which we already printed in the display method, which have been printed in the server part itself. We can make our method to return some values also. For that, what we need to do is, in the remote interface itself, we need to have definition for methods to return some value. Say for example, in my remote interface, let us assume I had a method called int add of int comma int. Let us assume I had a method called int add of int comma int in my remote interface. For this method has been defined in the remote class, and I created a remote object. I successfully registered in the central repository. Now I am looking for the remote object ABC. Once my lookup operation is success, then I got the valid interface in a variable called I. Now what I can do is, I can do int x equal to I dot add of 10 comma 10. If I have properly gave definition for this add method to add these two numbers and returning the added result, my x variable will have the value 20. In that way, we can make our remote methods to return some values also, and that return value can be used in my client application. By that way, we can make all of our methods to return value or some of our methods to return value. Okay. So I am closing the main function, and finally I am closing the client function. So all of my creations are over. Once again I am consolidating all of my creation. In order to create RMA application, I need to follow 3 steps. The first step is creation of remote interface. The second step is creation of remote class. The third step is creation of client application. In remote interface, in the first step, what are all the remote methods I would like to have? All should be declared, not defined. In the second step, a remote class, I need to implement what are all the remote methods which I already declared in my remote class, and I need to register the remote class in the centralized repository. Once my registration process is over, my remote class is also over. Next, I am migrating to the third step called client creation. In the client creation, I am going to look after the remote method which I have been already created, registered with name. For that, I am going to use naming class and the method lookup. Okay, with the help of this lookup method, I am going to use the RMA URL. With the help of this RMA URL, the corresponding object has been looked and the interface associated with the object is returned. With the help of this interface, what are all the remote methods which are available being called. Okay, so these are all the creation steps. Now, how can I make this program to run? So far, we created 3 Java programs. The first one is myint.java. The second one is myserver.java. The third one is myclient.java. The first program is a remote interface program. The second one is a remote class program. The third one is client program. All these programs has to be compiled sequentially in order to make our RMI application to run. So let us go for compilation of the first one, myint.java. How can I compile myint.java? We have to go to the command prompt. In that command prompt, we need to type the command javac followed by myint.java. After successful compilation of myint.java, I am going to be generated with the result myint.class. This is the bytecode we used to get whenever we are compiling our Java program. Once this compilation is successful, we are going for the second level compilation, that is my server.java compilation, that is javac followed by my server.java. Once I compiled my server.java program, I am going to get the result my server.class. Now comes the special compilation called RMI compilation. Once my server class has been successfully compiled, I am going to be generated with my server.class. This server.class will be the input for the special compilation called RMI compilation. Why do we have that special compilation? That we will see later. Let us first compile, RMI compile the server class. How can I do? RMIC my server and provide enter. So RMIC space my server, this is the name of the compiled server class. Okay, my server is the name of the compiled server class. The result of this RMI class is generation of two files. The first file is called stub. The second file is called scale. These two are the files which are generated once we successfully compile the my server class. Stub file is associated with client, scale file is associated with server. Why do we have these two association? These two association we are in need because whenever we are passing a request from one machine to another machine, that request is in the form of bytecode that should be converted into the corresponding bytes, network understandable format. Hence we are in need of stub associated with client. As we already know, client is making a request to the server. So client is sending its request. That request is in the form of bytecode that should be converted into network understandable format. That process is called marshalling. That marshalling is done by stub. So stub does the process called marshalling. Next file which we are generated as a result of RMI compilation is scale. This does the process of unmarshalling. Unmarshalling is the reverse process of marshalling. Client is sending the request. Whenever that request is reaching the server has to understand the request. Already the request is in the form of network understandable format. That should be converted into bytecode format so as to make our server to understand the request. This scale file will do the process of unmarshalling process. Unmarshalling is the process of converting network understandable format into bytecode. That bytecode is understandable by the server. So as a result of RMI compilation, we are going to be generated with two files. One is stub, another one is scale. So what I am going to have as a result of RMIC is my server underscore stub dot class. Another file I am going to have is my server underscore scale dot class. These two are the files which are generated as a result of RMIC. My server dot stub will take care of marshalling. My server underscore scale dot class will take care of unmarshalling. Okay, and then finally last compilation will be the client compilation. Java C my client dot Java. The final compilation being client compilation. So Java C my client dot Java. Ultimately I am going to be generated with my client dot class. So in total I am going to have number 1 my int dot class, number 2 my server dot class, number 3 my server underscore stub dot class, number 4 my server dot scale dot class, and finally my client dot class. So in total I am going to have 5 dot class files. These 5 dot class files are going to work for me in order to successfully run my RMI application. So far we did Java compilation, RMI compilation in order to generate 5 dot class files. Those 5 dot class files has to be properly executed in order to draw the results. In the server side environment, what we are going to do is we have to open a command prompt. In that command prompt, we are going to run the first application called RMI registry, and we are going to press the enter key. Now comes the new entry called RMI registry. As I already stated, we are in the process of creating remote objects, and we are registering the remote object in the centralized repository. In that way I already stated that centralized repository as per Java RMI technology is called RMI registry, which is an application which stores what are all the remote objects which have been created. Whenever we are properly registering all those RMI objects by giving name to it, all the RMI objects, remote objects are available in the registry called RMI registry. When we run this application will be executing by showing what are all the remote objects available or associated with it. After opening this command prompt and after running this application, let us open another command prompt. In that another command prompt, we need to run the server application. Java my server and press enter. Java my server and then press enter. This is the step of running the server application. In the client application or in the client system, we are going to open a command prompt where we are running Java my client, and we are going to press enter. Whenever we are making this statement Java space my client, and when we press enter key, a lookup operation or method has been invoked which will check the RMI registry. That lookup method, by checking the RMI registry, finds with that name, say for example ABC, any object available in the centralized repository or not. If that object is available, RMA registry in turn communicates the server application in turns communicates client. This is what the way the communication is happening. Once again I am repeating, in the client system, whenever we are executing the command java space my client, a request has been sent to first the RMA registry. This request is meant for identifying the registered remote object. In case of the availability of registered remote object in RMA registry immediately route that communication to server application. The server application in turn gives a response to client. Now the client will get the remote interface reference. With the help of that remote interface reference, the client is invoking what are all the methods which are available in the server. Okay. Whenever those methods are invoked, those methods, the definitions, those methods are given, that method requesting information is given to the server. In the server part itself, those methods are executed and the results are sent back to the client. This is what the way the RMI works for you. Now let us consolidate the RMI technology as a whole. Java RMI allowed one programmer to execute remote function calls with the same semantics as local function calls. Here is a figurative explanation for it. The local machine is executing a function called sum. That sum is not available in local machine, but the sum is available in remote machine. Hence, the local machine is making a request from itself to a remote machine. The remote machine, upon receiving the request, process the request and then returns the result back to the client. This is what the basic of Java remote method invocation. This is a generalized architecture so far we have studied. In the remote machine, we are going to have the remote server and we are going to have the skeleton class. The remote server binds the remote object with RMI registry, and we are going to have the client or local machine. In that local machine, we are running the client application which is associated with stub. Whenever this client is looking up the remote method, that request is passed to the RMI registry. The RMI registry look for the corresponding remote object. Once the object has been found, that communication has been sent to RMI server. Now this RMI server is sending a message to client, I am ready to receive your request. Now the client, with the help of the stub, making a call to RMI server in turn process the call and returns the result back to the RMI client. This is what the generalized architecture for RMI. The RMI follows the OSI layer like this. Here is the client. The client makes use of stubs. The stubs in turn contacts a specialized layer called RRL. RRL stands for Remote Reference Layer. That remote reference layer in turn contacts the transport layer protocol in order to have communication with the server. The transport layer protocols, there exist two famous transport layer protocols. One is TCP, another one is UDP. RMI uses a TCP for its communication. TCP requires connection before going to have communication. So TCP first establishes connection with the server. Suppose client wants to have communication with the server, a connection has to be established between client and the server. Once the connection establishment is successful, then the client can have communication with the server with the help of the underlying transport layer protocol TCP. Here comes the role of stub and skeleton. As I already stated, the stub is associated with the client, the skeleton is associated with the RMA server. Stub and skeletons are the results of RMA compilation, which we already saw in the example program. The client invokes a remote method. The call is first forwarded to stub. That call is in the form of bytecode that has to be converted into network understandable format. The stub does that job and converts the bytecode into network understandable format that has been routed to skeleton of RMA server. The skeleton in turn converts the network understandable format into Java understandable format, that is bytecode, in order to make the RMA server to recognize the request made by RMA client. This is what the job of stub and skeleton. That is why we are having the association of stub with the client and skeleton with the server. And these are all the steps which we already studied. I thank you very much for the wonderful opportunity given to me in order to present Java remote method invocation. Similar to RMA architecture, we are going to have another Java based application called Servlet, whose architecture is given here. In RMI, we are going to have client machines and server machine. Here the client is in Servlet, the client is a browser which is going to make a request to the server. That server is called HTTP server. The client is making a special kind of request called HTTP request. That request is sent to HTTP server. The HTTP server in turn passes the request to a special container called Servlet container, which invokes the Java program called Servlet, which is not the case for RMI. In RMI, whenever the client is making the request is passed to RMI registry. The RMI registry will then pass that request to server. The server will now have the communication with the client. Instead, in Servlet, the client is making HTTP request. That request is passed to HTTP server. The server in turn passes the request to Servlet container. That Servlet container invokes the program called Servlet. Servlet is also a Java program which is similar to RMI. How Servlet works now we are going to see. Whenever the request is received, immediately the request is going to be checked whether the servlet is loaded or not. If it has been loaded, then the servlet is a current servlet or not. If the servlet is current, then the request has to be processed and the response has to be made. If the servlet is not loaded, then the servlet has to be newly loaded for the processing of the request. This is what the way the servlet is working against of RMI. In case of RMI, whenever the request is given to the server, first of all the request reaches the RMI registry, and RMI registry in turn passes the request to server. The server in turn processes the request and responds to the client. Here there are so many intermediate things that are happening in case of servlets. In order to work with servlets, we are going to have a specialized package called JavaX. In RMI, we are having the package called java.rmi. In case of servlet, we are going to have the specialized package called javax.servlet.servlet and javax.servlet.http. That HTTP package contains a class called HTTP servlet. The servlet package contains a class called generic servlet. Those who want to program with a servlet, they can either make use of this generic servlet or HTTP servlet in order to develop their application. This is the diagram which shows how generic servlet work for you and HTTP servlet work for you. In case of generic servlet, whenever the client is making the request, the server makes a call to a method called service. In case of HTTP servlet, whenever the browser or client is making the request, the HTTP server makes a call to service. The service in turn makes a call either to do get or do post. Do get is a method which is invoked whenever the client is based on get request. Do post is invoked based on the client post the post method. Based on that, whether the do get method is to be invoked or do post is to be invoked, decided by the service method. Okay, the servlet interface the servlet is having so many lifecycle methods. These lifecycle methods are not available in RMI. RMI doesn't have any lifecycle methods, whereas a servlet is having so many number of lifecycle methods such as init, service, destroy. Okay, these three are the major lifecycle methods. Init method is called whenever the servlet is first time loaded. Service method is called whenever the request has been made to HTTP server, and then the destroy method is called whenever the browser window is getting closed. So these three methods are the lifecycle methods for servlet. These kinds of lifecycle methods are not available in RMI. Here comes the lifecycle methods. This is what the way the initialization is happening. In case of service, which invokes either do get or do post or do delete, do head, do trace, do options, these are all the sub methods which are available, which are invoked by the service method, which are available in servlet lifecycle, and finally the destruction phase of destroy. Okay, and the do get method contains two important parameters. One is HTTP servlet request, another one is HTTP servlet response, whereas the do post is also having the similar signature. The HTTP servlet request parameter is used for processing the incoming request, whereas the HTTP servlet response is used to provide a response. In that way, servlet is differing from RMI. In RMI, what we did is we are invoking the remote object. In case of servlet, we are not going to invoke any remote object. We are going to make a request to the HTTP server. The HTTP server in turn process the request and provide response. In case of RMI, we are making use of the URL called RMI URL. In case of servlet, we are making use of the URL called HTTP URL. I thank everybody for patient listening to the RMI and servlet session. Thank you, Anand.